Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to your very own BYJU'S 9th and 10th grade channel. I'm your teacher Aishwarya and as a part of SHIKHAR 2023-2024, I welcome you to our wonderful channel, and in this particular video we are going to be discussing the chapter Resources and Development, and specifically this is going to be part 2 for this particular chapter, where I will mainly be talking about land as a resource, and then I'm also going to be talking about how we can or how land is utilized, or I would talk about land utilization, and finally how over time this land resource that we have with us has undergone degradation over a period of time and why we should practice land conservation. So broadly, if you see, these are going to be the topics that I'm going to be covering, and I hope that all of you have your textbooks open with you. I hope all of you have your notebooks open with you. Yes, and please make sure you have a pencil and a water bottle ready with all of you, because as you all know, today's class may go on for 40 minutes. They're actually two very small topics, but I didn't want to club it with soil and types of soil, because then the class would have extended for at least 1.5 hours, which is why today we will do a very small topic, but we will learn it very well, because see, land utilization, how land is utilized, in what all ways. So when you look at fallow land, culturable, when you look at barren land, or when you take all of those examples, net sown area, gross cropped area, all of these things can become very tricky, right? So which is why we're going to be making sure that we understand this properly. So everybody, I welcome all of you to today's class, and I hope that my audio, my video and my screen and what I'm writing on the screen is visible to all of you. If it is, give me a quick thumbs up in the chat to let me know that we are good to go. And for whomsoever who's operating the studio, could you please make sure that my self view is made a little smaller, because the comments are getting covered. Yes, all right everybody, good to go. And everybody, I hope you have all of these things with you as well. Yes, good to go ma'am, that's amazing. Now I know that a lot of students here must be watching this video much after the live stream, so I request you to make sure that you make sure to not forget to hit the subscribe button. So Ranjit, I request you to just reduce the self view that is there on my screen. No, the whole self-view portion, so that I can read the comments effectively. Comfy Studies is telling me, ma'am, you did not cover resource planning in India. Now see, resource planning I did not touch in greater detail, of course, but we did discuss briefly about how there has been a, uneven distribution, right? We've spoken about uneven distribution, and we've spoken about how different minerals are found, or how different resources are found across in different parts, and how we need to plan effectively. So of course I did not touch it as a separate topic, but I taught you this when I did resource planning. Yes? Hi Josh! Now for all my new subscribers, new students watching this video much later, wanting to know what happens on the channel, we have an official timetable out for all of you, right? So as you all know, yes, we know that now you know who is going to come when. Now of course here 6 p.m. is going to be for class 9 SHIKHAR, but what you need to pay attention is to 7 p.m. every day you will have a class, right? You are definitely going to have a class for SHIKHAR series. And yes, so have this timetable ready, written down, printed, whatever you want, take a screenshot, keep it with you. But giving you a heads up, because I know tomorrow everybody will say, ma'am, you gave timetable and you didn't come. Tomorrow's biology class may not happen on Wednesday, but rather it will happen over the weekend. Okay, this is a slight change for this week due to some changes that are happening in Karnataka, since there has been a public holiday declared, which is why biology class will happen over the weekend, right? Mohammad Hafiz, if that is a problem, you are not, it's okay. I don't expect everybody to be enthusiastic in my class, but bacha, don't disturb the others, okay? Good to go. Shall we start? Are we all ready? Just give me one moment, we'll get started. Okay, everybody, all right. Yes? Okay. So now, of course, quickly to do a recap, right? Comfy studies, don't be so angry, be happy, right? Happy emojis. So now, of course, tomorrow, as we all know, right? In our previous class, so quickly to do a recap of what I taught you earlier, in our first class, or in L1, I would say lesson 1, I completed what are resources, and I made sure that I taught you what are resources, how we can understand, right? Something which is not only found in our environment, but it's technologically accessible, economically feasible, and culturally acceptable. And then we moved on to learning more about the classification of resources. Then we understood how there is a transformation triangle. So it's not just that resources are found in our environment, but we require technology to access the resource from nature. We require institutions, we require human resources to actually get them into usable forms, right? Which is why in this particular case, we will make sure that we learned this first. Moving after which we learned about resource planning, and we spoke about the importance of resources and why we should follow sustainable development as well, or the importance of sustainable development. Now this particular topic is very, very important on an examination front. Resource planning is important. So in case if all of you have not gone through this topic, I request all of you to go back and read once again. So today we are going to be covering land resources and its utilization, and then we will cover land degradation. Then we will look at conservation measures. Yes? So before I go ahead, I want to address one question from Shivanshu, who's asked in the live chat if major soil map is not there. See, even if soil map is not there, I will cover it, so don't worry. Good evening, Himani. Long time no see. Yes, it's okay, Hafiz, but I request you to not spam in class. Saroj, types of resources we touched briefly. We didn't go too much in detail. Welcome to my class, Shweta. Welcome. Yes. Ritika, please close YouTube. Open. You will be fine, right? You are going to be fine. So shall we get started? Now in my class, you know the rules, but for those of you who are new, I'm going to establish my rules once again. When I'm teaching in class, I will not take your doubts. So things like, ma'am, you ignoring me, you don't teach well, or any negative comments, no point, because at the end of the day, I am paying attention on teaching. So listen to me first. Yes, listen to what I'm teaching you first, and then you ask me your doubts. Only then it will make sense, right? So I request you to pay attention. Harshit, map towards the end, okay? And this part pay map is not there, so you don't have to worry, right? So now let's understand first as what do we mean by land as a resource and how land as a resource is getting utilized, right? So first I have a question for all of you to think about. Now students watching this video, you can write the answer down in your notebooks, right? So what is the first thing? When I say the word land, right? What is the first thing that comes to your mind? Can you tell me? Think about it. When I say land, the first visual that pops up into your mind is what I want you to tell me. Everybody, and I knew this answer would come. Most of you are telling me soil. There is an image of a plain grassland. Okay, then what else? Some soil, open sky. Okay, very good. Buildings. All right, buildings are coming into the picture. It's an asset for nation, yes, of course. But what else is coming? Trees, minerals, it's a natural resource. Yes. But you know what I liked the most? When we said land, right? The first thing, even if you were to ask me, right, ma'am, if I say land, what comes to your mind? I will only think about soil, and I'll think about this huge area where there's a lot of soil present. Now, the thing is, along with that, a lot of you also told me that, ma'am, there's also, agricultural field, there's grassland. That's true, right? But if I talk about land, it just does not stop with, an area with soil filled. Land includes these beautiful mountains. It includes trees in these areas. It includes beautiful forests that are there. It includes rocky areas. It includes plateaus. It includes your agricultural land as well. So land that is there is not just restricted to one thing, which is soil. But land is a natural resource, which is very, very important to all of us. Now, if you know, of course, this is very simple thing that we've learned in our lower grades. In our earth, right? How much percentage of earth is made of land? Can you quickly tell me? Percentage of earth which is made of land, or percentage of earth that is covered with land? Easy question, right? 70%. 70% is water. Almost 70%. Roughly, now a lot of, what is this, 25, 21? Guys, roughly I'm going to do 20 to 30%. I'm going to give a range. 20 to 30%, right, is covered with land, right, or is covered by land. Now, when you talk about land, you and I live on land. Whatever said and done, you and I live on land. And we know that whatever activities we do, whether it's our day-to-day activities, at a broader level, if you look at our country, or our state or our country, if it is developing, it is growing, all of this is happening on land, right? So in this case, we know that we perform our economic activities on land. And along with that, is it just for our benefit? Absolutely not. It supports natural vegetation, it supports wildlife, and you know that communication, transport systems, whatever we require, all of this is there on land. Do you think if land was not there, if there was no land, do you think we as humans would be there? Would we be able to survive? Do we have the ability to go underwater and survive? No, right? So many organisms, you, me, many animals in and around us, many plants that are there, they're all able to survive because of land. Now here we have an important question. Is land an infinite resource? Now we understand that we use land because natural vegetation is found on land, wildlife is found on land, we survive on land. So a lot of resources are available on land, right? Like especially from your soil that all of you told me, we get so many minerals and various other resources. But is land an infinite resource, right? Is it an infinite resource? No, right? In this case, we see that it is not an infinite resource. Somebody told me, ma'am, if there was no land, I would live in a boat. But here I'm telling you, hypothetically, if there was no land for even plants to be there with wood and everything, how you will build boat? That is a question to think about, right? Yes, there's artificial island, yes. How is an artificial island and everything been able to, how are we able to build it? Because we are on land and then we're going and we're building it, right? That is anyway a hypothetical question, okay? Not for us to go ponder too much in detail. The question we all need to ponder in detail is land a infinite resource, right? Is it an infinite resource? No. My question is answered. It is a finite resource. That means it's not going to keep coming and coming over and over as I keep using it, right? But rather it is finite. That means with whatever land I have, if it's 29-30% of earth which is covered on 29 to 30% of the earth which is covered with land, I have this much to work with only. Which is why if land is a resource, I have to plan better, right? We've learned that resource planning is important, right? We've all learned that this resource planning is important and I need to be smart and I need to plan it better. So to understand this, I should understand how my land is utilized. So broadly, let's take our country, right? Let's have a look at our country. Now this pie chart is there even in your textbook. You can just star mark this particular pie chart. Now, if you look at India as a country, we see that over 43%, right? So over 43% of the land that is there is made or is covered with plains, right? So this right here is covered with plains. Now, why are plains important? Like we know that there is northern plains, yes? So why are the plains important? It's a very easy part. Jishna, you don't need to study it in greater detail, but you need to understand the distribution, right? Yes, exactly, 43% flat land. Okay, very good. For agriculture and farming, right? So to practice agriculture, we know that the plains especially have fertile land, which is why it's good for agriculture. Now moving on, we have 30%, which is marked in blue. You see that 30% of the area is covered with mountainous regions, right? And we know that there are certain rivers which originate, and we know that on an ecological front, this right here is very important. Then of course around 27%, right? The remaining 20% that is there is covered with plateau. So in our case, we have the Deccan Plateau that is there. And we know that it is rich in minerals, it has various forests, various resources that we get just from the plateau region, right? So in all of these cases, we see that broadly the landforms that we see here are divided in this manner, right? Broadly we can say we have plains, we have mountains, and we have, you know, your plateau region. Now, how is it that we consider this land, right? How do we use the land? Now, you have India as a country. Now, how am I going to use the land? How does it decide that, or how do we decide that, okay, I have this pen. How do I use this pen? Now it's not just that, okay, I have a pen, I have to write. No. Various things we will observe. Okay, I have this pen, I know that my function could be writing it, but how do I know where I can write? Should I write it in paper? Should I write it on a screen? Is it a digital pen? So there'll be various indications that tell me, right? Okay, see, it does not have any ink. We know that, it looks very different from a normal pen, and we know that it's very bulky here. So you observe a lot of things. You observe a lot of its physical factors, right? So you make observations of physical factors. So similarly, if I want to use land, okay, it's one thing to say I have a piece of land, I am going to build house here. Or I have a piece of land, I am going to do agriculture here. How will I be able to decide? I cannot just decide by looking at a piece of land that's saying, okay, yes, I am going to do this. No, various factors come into the picture, right? Which is why if you think about it very easily. You all live in cities, or you live in urban areas probably, or you might be living in rural areas, wherever you are from. But if you notice in a city, right, especially I'll give you my example. Near my house, there is a small empty plot, okay? It's a small empty plot where some, plants will be growing. Now you imagine this is my house and I decide, hey, I have a piece of land next to me. Why not do agriculture here? Easy peasy, right? I'll grow some maybe wheat, I'll grow some rice next to me, I'll grow some vegetables also. Super simple, right? This is very simple and easy. So in this case, will I be able to just randomly grow it? No, right? As a matter of fact, I will not be able to grow. Depends on various physical factors. Yasmin says, ma'am, depends on soil. Astro is like, ma'am, it is a big deal. Oh, okay. Yes, exactly. Because a lot of things will matter. As Jalal is right. Ma'am, it is not going to grow. Obviously, if I'm living in Bangalore, near my house, I've decided to grow rice and wheat, and that on a small plot of land, it may not grow, may or may not, okay, you never know, you should try it out. But my point is that it depends on physical factors, like what is the climate? Okay, in Bangalore, okay, you have this kind of a climate, then you know that the topography, right, how is the land, right, what type of land is it, what kind of soil is there? So physical factors matter. But along with that, do you think only physical factors matter when it comes to land utilization? So if I want to utilize land, will I only depend on physical factors? Yes or no? What do you think? Topography is basically the layout of the land, right? Is it rocky? Is it plains? So that is what we mean by topography. No, Rohit tells me, ma'am, human factors are there. Precisely. So you see that we have human factors as well. So what are these human factors? We know that human factors depends upon population density, how many people are living there per, in a given area, right? And of course, what are the culture, what are the traditions, what kind of technology is there? So that is what we mean by this. Now, very important question which Abneet has asked me, not Abneet, Vaishnav has asked me is, ma'am, what do we mean by utilization? So when we say to utilize something, now let me tell you, I am utilizing this pen. It means that I am simply nothing but using this pen. So when I say land utilization, it means using of land. It's as simple as that. And today we will understand in what all ways do we use land, right? So that is what we are going to do. So now let's understand this. Now we don't use land only for agriculture. But as a matter of fact, we use land for multiple purposes, which is why broadly, based on what all we use land for, we will categorize them into 5 categories, okay? And I will also cover land use pattern as well when I teach this, so that I will club it and teach so that it gets easier to study. I will not do it separately, okay? So now, of course, we are going to cover 5 very important things. We will cover net sown area, we have land not available for cultivation, fallow land, other uncultivated land, and forests, right? Cricket lover has already started asking me, ma'am, what is fallow land? Now I have a question for all of you and I want you to be honest, okay? Take a minute and think about it. How many of you here get very, very scared looking at this? Tell me. These terms look very complicated, right? Or they are so, the differences between them are very small, right? very fine point of differences that exist. And in your textbook also, in NCERT, they have not really gone too much in detail. Okay, what they've done is they've given one or two sentences and they've said like, ha, chalo, this much only you need to know, right? Rohit, see, those of you who are saying, ma'am, not me, I'm very proud of you. But those of you who are saying, ma'am, I get a little scared, or a better word I would use right here is to get confused, because it's easy to get confused. So which is why I need you to pay a little bit attention into what I'm going to teach right now, because this is very important. This part especially is important, followed by which even land degradation I will spend some time, because most likely from previous year questions I have noticed that that particular question can come for 3 marks. Now this particular topic can come in MCQ based questions, which is why it's important to understand. Okay. Now a lot of you are asking me in the live chat if you can take notes while I teach you, which is why I always ask you to have your notebooks and pens, or ideally what you can do is in your textbooks, right? And this is what I would suggest. Textbooks pe you mark. Whatever I tell you is important, you just put a star mark next to it. It makes things easier. But if you want to make notes also, I'm completely fine with it. Okay. Yes. So shall we get started with this? So far, do you have any doubts with whatever I have taught you? So far, I've just taught you a brief introduction into land as a resource. I have not gone too much in detail. This is the main part, right? So which is why I would like to spend some time. We are clear? Shall we move ahead? Shall we move ahead? Tell me, yes ma'am, we can move ahead, so that in the live chat we can get going, right? Okay. Yes. Very good, very good. Okay. Doubts that are there, I'll keep taking it, don't worry. Does fertility of land matter? Fertility of land definitely matters. So to quickly summarize, what did we learn? We know that land is a very important resource. It's a finite resource because we get, we utilize land for various purposes like agriculture, natural vegetation, wildlife, so on and so forth. Which is why using our land wisely is very important. To plan and use it is important. Now, how do we use land is what I'm going to teach you. Okay. So the first one, right, is net sown area. See, whenever we talk about using land, right, if I ask you what do we use land for, first answer you will all give me unanimously, right, is that agriculture. Ma'am, we need land because we have to practice agriculture. So a lot of you know that the primary use, right, or mainly when we think about land usage, we talk about this agriculture. Now, every year we sow the crops, or we sow the seeds, and then we grow crops, right? So the physical extent or the area on which crops are sown, or the physical area up to which I sow my crops and I harvest it, is what I call as net sown area. So if I have this much land, right? So let's assume I have 100 meters square of land. And out of 100 meters square, I use this much, and maybe in 80 meters square, right? So 80 meters square of area pe I have sown and harvested crops. What will be my net sown area? Can you all tell me? What is going to be my net sown area? I have a total of 100 meters square of land. But in 80 meters square, I grew what? I grew my crops. So what is my net sown area? Exactly, right? It is going to be 80. So this is what we mean by net sown area. Very simple and easy, okay? Now, of course, if you think about net sown area, we're talking about it as a country as a whole. But you cannot really consider that in the entire country, the net sown area is going to be the same. Because there are different states which have different climatic conditions, they have different types of soil, different types of crops which are grown, and different irrigation availabilities, right? That means different, different states will depend on different irrigation facilities. So based on that, maybe places like Punjab, Haryana and all those regions, they will have more and more area of land which are being utilized for agriculture. But at the same time, maybe in the northeastern states, not too many, parts of the country, parts of the state is going to be utilized for agriculture. Which is why there will be difference within states also as to what will be net sown area. Yes? So this is what we mean by this. Now the next question or the next topic that comes in this, which is a very tricky topic, but an easy one, is gross cropped area. Okay? So you have net sown area, which you understood, which is basically the physical extent of land wherein you do your agriculture. Then what is this gross cropped area? Why suddenly one new term has come into the picture? Why can't we just call everything as net sown area? Why do we have something as gross cropped area? So basically your gross cropped area that is there is the area sown. It is the area sown more than once in an agricultural year, right? Agricultural year. So this is what we mean as gross cropped area. So let me give you two instances. Now I have two pieces of land, okay? I have plot A and plot B, right? Now imagine in plot A, I have 100 meter square of land and I did 80 meter square of cropping. But on the other hand, in part B, right, what do I do? In part B, probably I use 90 meter square, but I use this 90 meter square wherein I grow crops not once a year, but probably 2 times I use this piece of land to grow my plant, right? Probably I wanted to grow some vegetables. I like cabbage. I decided to grow cabbage. So I grew cabbage twice. But in this case, I grew rice in plot A. And I took one whole year just to grow rice. Yes? So in this case, right? In this case, in plot A, I did it 1 time. In plot B, I did it 2 times or more than once, right? So when I do it only once in an agricultural year, that area of land which I use to grow crops once a year will come in net sown area. Are we understanding this properly? If it is once, right, it is net sown area. But in the second case, if I grow it more than once, right, or if I take multiple croppings in a same one, then it will come in gross cropped area. Are we clear with this topic? Are we all clear? Yes or no? So net sown area is the physical extent, right? It is the physical extent which I consider wherein I do my cropping. So I sow my seeds, I harvest my crop, but I grow one crop or one cropping season only I use, right? Or I use that land only once. Then net sown area. While if I use that same piece of land 2-3 times to grow crops, then it will come under gross cropped area. Are we clear? Hansika, soon. Yes? Are we clear? Vaishnav, I have repeated. Now are we clear? Because this is a topic which can be little consuming. I mean, it can be a little tricky, right? Which is why I'm taking some time for all of you to understand. Ma'am, in mixed cropping, we do 2 times a year. So if it is 2 times a year in mixed cropping, where, see, there are 2 things. If I grow 2 plants, but I grow it only once, it will be in net sown area. But if I grow 2 plants twice, then it will be gross cropped area. It's as simple as that. Okay? Now let's move on to the next one. So now I know that some of my land, right, good amount of land that is there is getting utilized for agriculture. Okay. Now moving on, do I use land only for agriculture? Now if I ask you, right, okay ma'am, if I tell you, okay, imagine if I want to use land, but I don't want to do agriculture, then what are we going to do, right? Or what are we going to use land for? What will you tell me? Quickly you can say. What is the next thing that comes to your mind? What else will I use my land for? You will all tell me, ma'am, building house. Then you will tell me, ma'am, road. Then, ma'am, you know, I want to build school. I want to build hospital. I want to build factory. I want to become, you know, next I want to be an entrepreneur and I want to have my own business and my own factory. Exactly. So next, a portion of our land is not really utilized for cultivation, right? So this land that is there is normally put into non-agricultural uses. So if the land is not very fertile, and this was a question that was there, ma'am, how important is fertility for growing plants? See, or crops. If your soil is not fertile, we can add manure, fertilizer and everything. But at the end of the day, your soil must be capable also of, you know, holding the crop and allowing it to grow. So soil fertility here is very, very important, right? And some portion of land is also used for non-agricultural uses, such as making sure that we use land for buildings, roads, factories, so on and so forth. And we need all of this, right? At the end of the day, we require all of this because that's what also allows and promotes for development. Yes? But at the same time, there are paths, right? So we see that we know that building, roads and hospitals and buildings help in boosting development and of course improves population, or we know that this has also contributed to increase in population. But there are parts of the land which is not really utilized. So we see that we call this as barren land or wasteland. You can't utilize it, right? So it cannot be brought under cultivation with the current technology that is there. So whatever available technology we have right now, even if I use it, I will not be able to implement it. I cannot use it for growing crops, right? So normally if you think about deserts, or if you think about, rocky areas or maybe very dry areas, it is very difficult, right? Which is why in this case, we see that a lot of barren and wasteland is utilized. Yes? So this is the second category of it. Now, of course, over time, right? This is, of course, in the earlier days. Over time, there has been decrease in the land use under this particular category, right? So whatever, if you think about it, some of you are asking me, ma'am, if good land is there, why are you making buildings? You should be utilizing it for doing agriculture. Why are you wasting all of that land, right? Which is why in this case, land under agriculture that is there, over time, we are utilizing this for land under agriculture. We are using it. And along with the same time, some amount of this arid land, or maybe, some amount of the land that we're not utilizing for cultivation, we are putting it in non-agricultural uses, right? So we're making buildings or we're using them elsewhere. So which is why that percentage has come down over a period of time. So with this, we have covered two very important topics, that is net sown area and land not available for cultivation. So far, are we feeling a little more confident? Okay, ma'am, this is not actually very tough. I need to pay attention to a little bit of the questions that you had asked me, right? You told me to focus on some of the definitions, and when you told me to focus, this has become easy. Yes? Okay, little bit. See, now I understand at one go when I teach you. Let me be, does not mean that you are a bad student, right? Or does not mean that you are not studying it properly. It is probably that. Okay. Is everything okay? I hope you are not facing any technical issues. Yes? I can see a lot of students are telling me lag, but I hope now it's okay. Yeah. Now fine. No, yeah, I think in between there was a little bit of lag, but now it's fine. See, like I said, there is a chance that you might feel like, "Arey ma'am, I'm not understanding," or maybe geography is not my thing, or this chapter is very boring, I don't want to study. Let me tell you that if you put in the effort, right? If you put in the effort and if you just make some amount of time, keep reading it, come back, watch the video, things will become better, right? So you have nothing to worry about. All you need to do is to put that effort. See, 10th standard is not going to be easy. If I sugarcoat and tell you, then I will be, I'm not that kind of a teacher to tell you, "Arey, 10th standard ho jayega." It's very easy. No. 10th requires effort. But with effort, it becomes very easy. Yes? So which is why I need your concentration, I need your focus. I spend time teaching not because I want to make a long class. I want to make all of you understand. That is why I spend my time here, and I know that the time and effort we put together will bring results. I am confident. If I am confident, I know you will be confident. Okay? Now with all of this motivation, let's get going to the next topic, which is fallow land, right? Third part of it, which is fallow land. Now see, fallow land is something that we have not learned now. It's not new word. If you remember in 8th standard biology, you have learned this, crop production and management, right? In crop production and management, we have learned fallow land. When you leave a piece of land wherein you can do agriculture, leave it as it is. You don't do agriculture, you don't do anything else, you just leave it as it is for some period of time. We call it as fallow land. Now under this fallow land, there are 3 types, okay? But just that the third type falls in a different category altogether, right? Okay. Yes, I understand that right now there must be, I think in between there was a slight lag, but okay, nonetheless. So as we know that there are 3 categories under fallow land, and in this case, right, first one that we have is current fallow. Okay, you have current fallow, other than current fallow, and your third one comes in culturable wasteland. Yes. So current fallow, you have other than current and culturable wasteland. These are your three categories. Yes. So now of course, let me tell you. Current fallow is a land which is left without cultivation for less than one agricultural year. Now, why do farmers do this? Comfy Studies has asked me, ma'am, if we leave this land uncultivated, is it so because we want to restore fertility? Yes, it is for the same reason, right? So the main reason why earlier farmers were doing this is because they wanted to give the soil enough amount of time so that they can get back whatever, nutrients that they have given away for that crop to grow, right? So they leave it as it is so that the soil can recover and now the soil will have more fertility. So normally current fallow is when they leave it for less than 1 year. But sometimes there could be some which is left between as it is for 1 to 5 agricultural years, right? So we see that the land is left uncultivated for between 1 to 5 years. So in this case, you have current fallow less than 1. Write it in your textbook, please. Write it down right now in the way I have written it here. So near current fallow, put less than 1 because you will remember symbols. Put 1 to 5 so that you know you will be able to remember. Now, why do they leave it for 1 to 5 years? Multiple reasons. One reason, again, probably the land needs more time to replenish, right? So fertility is basically how well plants can grow, right? How much nutrients is present in the soil. That is what we call as fertility. So sometimes they will leave it for more than 1 year just so that it can replenish. But in some cases, it might just go unused, right? They may leave it unused as it is. And at times, what happens is that if it goes for beyond 5 years, it goes from fallow land to the next category, which is other uncultivated land. So now this is some separate category, okay? So here, if it is left for more than 5 years, your other than current fallow becomes culturable wasteland. Because now I can cultivate my crops. But what am I doing? I am leaving it as it is. So what have I done? I have made it a wasteland, right? I could have grown my crops and been smart, but no, I left it as it is. So it has become into culturable wasteland. Now are we clear? Are we clear with other uncultivated land that is there, which is excluding your fallow land? Now this is moved into a new category, right? Wasting the resource. Exactly. Thank you, Manjula. Love you too. Yes? So now, of course, you then have two more categories. So see, these are two categories where one, of course, you know that some portion of your land is utilized as pastures. So if you are a farmer and you have cows and you have cattle and everything, you need to have pastures where they can feed themselves, right? So which is why we have this grazing land or pastures where they can feed. And then, of course, we see that we have this land under miscellaneous tree crop groves. Very fancy word, okay, but it's very easy, right? So basically this miscellaneous is other. Now, how many of you have heard miscellaneous questions? How many of you have heard this miscellaneous questions in your textbook you would have seen, or in sometimes in these reference books, right? You would have seen miscellaneous questions. It's not useless per se, it's basically other, right? We can't say useless. It's not that it's useless. It is other, extra, other, right? So miscellaneous, for those of you who are asking me, right? It's a little outside these fruit trees, orchards that are there. It also includes all these bamboo trees and everything. So basically it does not come under your category of agricultural area, your net zone area. It doesn't come there. It's just like one extra out of order, somewhere far away, like all these extra ones are together, right? So that is what we mean by this. Okay, I can see that some of you are telling me there is a lag. I hope it is better right now. Yes? Are you all able to see and hear me clearly? It should be better. Okay, ma'am, now it is fine. Okay, thank you. So now I'll move on to the last part and I'll take your examples. That is forests, right? Abhi forest ke liye it's very simple. Forest cover, as we all know, is where you have a large area of land which is covered with trees primarily, and then you have small plants as well. And ideally, we should have about 33% of forest in a like if you take a country, at least 33% of the total land area should be covered with forests. But over time, of course, we know forest cover has been in the country has been slowly decreasing. I will not say increasing, but rather we see that it is far lower than the desired 33%, right? Which is why in this case we see that the large percentage of it is forests. Now before I go ahead, any doubts so far on a scale of 1 to 10 with respect to land utilization and land use pattern? Are we feeling confident? Yes? Ma'am, repeat it because we couldn't hear you. Which part do you want me to repeat? Fallow land, is it? So let me quickly go to my fallow land slide so that it makes it easy for me to teach also, right? So as we all know, right, if I have to quickly, okay, let me use this. Okay, so first and foremost, we know that we can utilize land in five categories, right? So first you have your net sown area, which is the physical extent that you use for agriculture. Now, net sown area will differ from state to state because of various factors like climate, irrigation facilities, so on and so forth. Then next up you have this, which is land which is not available for cultivation. So you know that a large percentage of it comes under net sown area. But you know that land is needed for many other reasons also. So one of course is for your buildings and everything, right? So you need it for non-agricultural uses such as your buildings, you need it for roads, infrastructure, so on and so forth. Then you have your barren and wasteland. Now in barren and wasteland, we understand that this is not very ideal, right? So it is not very ideal for utilization, and we know that we can't use any available technology at this point, which is why barren and wasteland. Then you have fallow land. Now fallow land is one, so let me use this slide, right? So fallow land is one wherein you see that it is left uncultivated. So it is a piece of land which is left uncultivated for a brief period of time, right? So for a brief period of time, we don't do anything to it. Yes? Now based on this, you have current fallow and you have other than current fallow. Now current fallow is when for less than 1 year, I leave my agricultural land as it is. I don't do any cultivation. Then I have other than current fallow, which is between 1 to 5 years. But if I leave it for more than 5 years, it will become a culturable wasteland. Somebody was asking me, ma'am, what culturable means, right? What do we mean by the word culturable? That means that I can cultivate, I can grow my crops. But for some reason, I am not doing it, right? It's a wasteland. It's a wasteland where I can actually grow my crops. Unlike my wastelands that I find in this category, right? So that is what we mean by it. Then in other uncultivated land, that means here in other uncultivated land, that means these are uncultivated areas, okay? We are not utilizing them for buildings or it's not a wasteland. But these are some other categories. So one may you know that you have some wasteland which has the ability to be used as a agricultural field, but we are not using it. Then you have your pasture lands, right? So basically you have permanent pastures for grazing where if I was a farmer, okay, if I was a farmer and I wanted to grow some crops, right? And I have some, dairy farming, cattle farming going on. I need area where my animals can go and graze and feed, right? Which is why if you see, let me go back to that slide for your understanding. So in this particular case, we see that permanent pastures and grazing lands are so that my population of cattle can feed, right? Which is why in this case it is important. Then I have my miscellaneous tree crops. So I have some crops which don't come under the category of these crops like, agricultural land. They just grow as it is. They come in a separate category, which is what we call as land under miscellaneous tree crops and groves. Which is why here, this particular topic that is there includes all your, fruit orchards. It'll include all your bamboo shoots, all of that. Yes? Ma'am, barren is different from other uncultivated area. Yes. Why is barren land different from other uncultivated area? Because barren land does not have the ability. Even if you want to cultivate, you cannot cultivate, right? So that is what we mean by this. What is pasture? Pasture is where basically land where people go and they feed their crops, right? So that is what we mean by this. And last, forest wala slide is also very simple and easy, right? So as we all know, millions of people are dependent on forests, and we know that it's for livelihood is also necessary, which is why we know that over time things have been going down. Okay, so now on a scale of 1 to 10, are we feeling confident? Better, no? I gave you a quick summary. Yes? Can we convert agricultural area into uncultivable area? Possible. If you leave it as it is, it will become uncultivated, right? That is all that I want. That is all that I want, right? Things need to just become better. Even if it becomes better, no, I've done my job. Because over and over, I will keep teaching you. So you have nothing to worry about. Yes? So here's a quick poll question for all of you. Now this is slightly tricky and I need you to read the statement. 2 statements are given to you out of which you need to identify which among the statements are correct. Yes? So statement number 1 is, current fallow land is the land which is left without cultivation for more than 1 year. Okay? Forest cover in India has decreased over the past few decades. Which among the following options are correct? Yes. Which among the following options? Poll, bacha, I will not be able to give you a poll right now, but it's okay. You can quickly, send me the answer here itself, right? Okay, very good, all of you, very good. Exactly. Correct answer here is option B, only 2, right? Because if you think about it, what is current fallow? Current fallow that is there is one wherein we see that it is less than 1 agricultural year, not more than 1 agricultural year. And we know that forest cover in India has decreased over the past few decades, which is why this statement is true. It's okay, Chaitu, that's a huge number for me, and I know that all of you will understand. My live students watching this much later on after the live stream, if you guys have understood what I've taught you, I've done my job, right? My aim is not anything more. It's just your understanding. That is all that I want. Yes. Okay, very good, very good. Now moving on to the next topic. Now this topic that is there is a little important, okay? This is also important, but it's a very easy one also. Probably it will take me 10 more minutes to sort of teach this part and I will be done, right? So let's understand land degradation and land conservation methods, okay? So now as we all know, right? We know that land is utilized in multiple ways. But do you think we are utilizing it? I have a question now. Are we utilizing land or are we overutilizing land? Are we utilizing land or are we overutilizing? Can you tell me? Yes, we are overutilizing it, right? So if we have all of these things available to us, we are not using it wisely. But rather over a period of time we have been overutilizing it and we have been degrading the quality. Somebody was asking me, ma'am, what is degradation? Degradation is destroying the quality, or I could say reducing the quality, right? Quality of land. So in this particular case, over a period of time, we have resorted to deforestation, overgrazing, where at the end of the day, it's not a limited area of land which is used for, cattle feeding, but overgrazing happens. Then, of course, we know that we've been mining, quarrying, all of this which has led to land degradation, which is why conservation is very important. What do I mean by conserving? To protect, making sure that I don't repeat my mistakes further. I conserve, I protect my land. And we know that almost 95% of our needs, right, is dependent on land, because whether it's food, shelter, clothing, all of this we get from our land, which is why we need to take care of it. No? Now, if I need to know how I have to take care of my land, I should know how I am destroying it or how I am reducing the quality, which is where causes of degradation comes into the picture. Everybody put a star mark in your textbook next to this, because this right here is a 3-mark question which can come in your examination, where they can ask you maybe, list down the causes that have led to land degradation, or they can ask you a 2-mark question where they will ask you about how does mining contribute to land degradation? How does over-irrigation contribute to, land degradation? Where does over-irrigation happen? In which states do mining, contribute to land? They'll ask you this particular part, okay? So, which is why this right here is very, very important. Momen, I will answer this question. Can I first finish teaching this part and then I will tell you that, okay? So now we know that when it comes to mining, right? So when it comes to mining, we know that in order to mine and extract all these minerals and everything, we need to excavate, right? That means I will dig deeper into my land. and I will make sure that I get all of my minerals or whatever resources I am looking for. But at the same time, what happens is that once I finish mining, most often than not, we see that it leaves deep scars on the land, and sometimes they will, abandon it altogether. They will just leave that piece of land and they will go. So that way what happens? We see that we are degrading the quality of land, right? Which is why in states like Jharkhand, Odisha, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, where there is a lot of mining involved, especially for iron ore and various other resources, we see that mining is one of the primary causes, especially in these states, for land degradation, right? Next up, we have over irrigation. Now, irrigation we know is a methodology by which we provide water to the crops at regular intervals. But in some states, like especially Punjab, Haryana, where agriculture is thriving, right? So you know that in these states, agriculture thrives, which is why we see that here there can be a lot of uses of irrigation facility. So when a lot of irrigation facilities are there, what will happen? It will cause water logging. That means water will get clogged, right? Which means there's a lot of water which will be clogged and found here and there. It will be found as slumps basically. Now what will happen if there's a lot of water also? We see that this can affect the quality of soil, because now the soil will become saline. Way too many salts which will be there in the soil, making it saline, and also the pH will vary and it will become alkaline. So the alkalinity gets affected, right? Then you have overgrazing. So in states like Gujarat and Rajasthan especially, we see that a lot of land is converted into grazing land, and as a result we see that a lot of land is left without vegetation, and this also means that more of this land is prone to soil erosion, which we will learn later on, right? So in these states we see that overgrazing is extremely one of the factors that have led to it. Then of course you know that in certain industries like mineral processing industries, we see that where they process the mineral. Now when the mineral is extracted, they can't use the mineral as it is, right? So they will undergo some processing. So which is why what happens is that especially in grinding of limestone, so especially in cement industry, while grinding limestone, we see that during this process a lot of dust gets generated, and all this dust will end up settling on the soil. And when all this dust settles on the soil, we see that can water percolate through the soil? Absolutely not, right? So we see that at this point it affects the percolation of water as well. So how can we go about increasing the quality of land, right? How can I make it better? So first and foremost, wherever I'm practicing or wherever mining takes place, important checks need to be done. A lot of environmental permissions need to be taken place so that we don't over excavate or we don't degrade the quality. And then of course there must be proper disposal of waste, and we need to make sure that we control overgrazing as well, right? So everybody take a quick screenshot of this, right? So just give me one moment, I will be back. Take a quick screenshot in the meanwhile, right? Yes? Are we good to go? Now very quickly everybody, any more doubts, right? So now I will take a quick doubt board for all of you. But any doubts so far that you have? I know one question which was there, which was mining versus quarrying, right? See, basically mining and quarrying are extracting minerals, okay? Just that mining you will have to dig deeper and extract it, while in quarrying you take it from the surface or you extract it from the surface. It is as simple as that. What is alkaline? Now this of course that is there. Now if it has more amount of salts in it, we see that it becomes more alkaline, and it's not very ideal also. This kind of a pH is not very ideal for growth of plants. Now some of you are telling me, ma'am, lag is there. Okay, ma'am, no voice. Is it so? Can we check please? There's a lag? No. I think it's good to go, but a lot of you are telling me. Let me just check. Now it's better? No, I'm able to hear myself, right? It's fine now. Yes, I think in between there is some lag which is appearing. We will take it a little more in detail, right? So are we clear? Are we clear? Ma'am, what is renewable, non-renewable? I taught this in your previous session, but I'll go ahead once again. See, renewable resources are those which can be replenished, right? That means I can get it back. After using, I can get it back. While non-renewable are things which I will not get back easily. Once I use it, I use it. And it takes a long period of time for it to form. So is water a renewable or a non-renewable resource? It is a renewable resource, right? Alkaline is basically the pH, right? It's basically alkaline is a condition of the pH where there's more amount of salt and the pH is greater than 7, right? Salinity is how much salt is there. So for example, if I take maybe say 10 ml of water and I put maybe 10 grams or let's say 50 grams of salt, right? So there is a lot of salt which is present. Now salt here just does not refer to NaCl. It could be any form of salt, right? Now we know that salt is basically a compound that is there. So in this particular case, when there's more amount of salt, we talk or we say that it is saline, right? Or that is what we call as salinity. What is land? Land as a resource is finite. So it would not be renewable, right? It will be non-renewable. Ma'am, how does overgrazing affect land? Simple. So if you have all these plants, right? And if there is a animal which is grazing, right? It will come and it will consume all of these plants, right? It will overgrazing. That means in this ideally should have eaten 2, 3. But it ended up eating 5, 6, 7. So now what has happened? My topsoil is exposed, which means now this particular land can get eroded, right? Soil erosion can happen. I am not naming the animal. Okay? So everybody, hope this is clear. Net sown area I have already taught you, but of course due to shortage of time, because there's a class which is there right now at 8 p.m. Arsh ma'am's class. Jakula, Muskan, just rewind back to the part where I've taught you net sown area and gross cropped area. You will be able to identify. Yes? So one last question. Can we have the poll please for them? A, B, C, D. So again you have two statements. Land degradation due to mining activities is predominant in Punjab and Haryana. Deforestation is one of the major ways to stop land degradation. Which among these statements are correct? Is or are correct? Only one, only two, both 1 and 2, or neither 1 and 2? What do you all think? This is very easy, right? Very simple and easy for all of you students. Land degradation due to mining activities is predominant in Punjab and Haryana. Deforestation is one of the major ways. Deforestation. I am seeing some mixed answers in the live chat. Okay, all right, lot of votes in. I request all of you to vote very quickly. Okay, very good, all of you, very good. Most of you have got the correct answer. It is neither 1 nor 2. Somebody has voted telling ma'am 1. How? Land degradation due to mining activities is mainly there in Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, right? In those areas where there's a lot of mining, lot of extraction of minerals taking place. But Punjab and Haryana, you know that it's predominant for agriculture. So this is by over irrigation. Be very careful. And deforestation is one of the major ways to stop land degradation. Deforestation contributes to land degradation. It is afforestation, cropping or growing more trees, right? Which is why in this particular case, we see that both the statements are incorrect, right? Yes. Ma'am, one simple example for grazing areas in India. Gujarat is an example where a lot of land is dedicated for overgrazing, right? So with this everyone, we come to the end. Homework question for all of you. How are mining activities responsible for land degradation in Jharkhand? Let me know in the comments below, because you know I'm going to be checking your answers, right? So take a screenshot of this or come back and you can rewind, because you know BYJU'S 9 and 10 has always got you covered. And do not forget to hit the like button and do not forget to subscribe, right? Very, very important that you stay subscribed to our channel, because now you know when we will be coming live, you know the timetable, you know that we're going to be taking classes regularly. We have one more session to cover before we wind up resources and development, and then of course we will be having a lot of small explanations coming your way so that you can revise easily. See, we have a lot of things planned, and all you need to do is to hit one subscribe button. That's all, right? Nothing nothing more you have to do. Everything will come to you then. So thank you so much, students, for being a part of today's class. Lots of love to all of you. I will see you soon, but up until then, take care. Lots of love and bye-bye.